The story begins with the protagonist reflecting on the world he is trying to survive in. His name is Shinomiya Hokage, and he is currently preparing for his exams. He believes that summer break will mark the beginning of his survival journey. He has conducted meticulous research, studied various books, and participated in numerous tours. To achieve his dream, he knows he needs hands-on experience. A paper ball strikes him, prompting him to turn around and notice bullies targeting him, but he chooses to ignore them. In class, his ranking is low, yet perhaps due to his discipline, the bullying never becomes too harsh. He eventually falls asleep, wishing summer break would arrive soon. When he wakes up, he finds himself in a completely different place. He assumes it's a dream, but it feels too real. His phone has no signal or Wi-Fi, leaving him unable to call for help. He considers using the flare he carries, then decides to save it for when rescuers appear. Noticing his handkerchief is still wet, he realizes he was transported here while sleeping. He searches his bag, pulls out a knife, and feels a surge of excitement. This is his chance to live out his survival life. He quickly understands that staying calm is essential, and his priority is survival. Noticing the sun is already up, he determines that he must grasp his surroundings and locate a base. Observing the environment, he deduces that the presence of animals means he can hunt for food. His instincts lead him to a water source. The water appears clean, but he refuses to take unnecessary risks. While there are many ways to purify water, he decides it is not the right time, as safety comes first. He takes out a bottle with purification functions, one of 3 he brought in case of a shipwreck scenario. With this, he no longer worries about water. He finds it delicious, assuming the taste improves because he is surrounded by nature. His next objective is to locate a cave to use as a base, relying on the nearby river. After that, he needs a food source. For now, his only option consists of edible plants, and he wonders if a sea exists nearby. At that moment, he hears human voices. He moves to investigate and collides with a girl. Both scream, and other girls rush forward to protect her. One recognizes him as Hokage. He identifies them as the high-ranking group from his class, the same group that once threw erasers at him. Yukimana stands as their leader, and whenever she approaches him, the others tend to surround him. Next is Futagawa Eri, who maintains a neat and orderly demeanor. Nimi Karin has been in the same class as him for 3 years, yet he knows nothing about her private life. Nikotama Arisa works at a karaoke place and shows interest in finding a sugar daddy. He gathered this information during lunch breaks when they sat together and chatted. After all, observation is an unspoken rule when it comes to survival. Eri explains that when they regained consciousness, they were lying on the ground. Arisa adds that she woke up in front of a cave and felt frightened by his ninja knife. Hokage responds that he is a survivalist after all. Karin recalls seeing him reading a survival pamphlet. Mana speculates that if Hokage is here, then the other boys must be as well. Karin proposes that it would be best to stay with Hokage. They all agree, and Mana announces he will be their partner. He blushes slightly, admitting he has no objection, though he clarifies that he plans to go his own way. Arisa suddenly asks an unusual question, and he freezes at her abrupt remark. She wonders if men feel happy when surrounded by girls and mentions what she has heard. Then she asks whether he is the type who cannot rise to the occasion. He exhales and admits he does have such feelings, but reminds her that this is not the time to discuss them. He outlines his plan to search for a sea, though he intends to guide them to the cave first. Arisa assumes he plans to write an SOS on the sand. He clarifies that he is only interested in seaweed and the ocean. He never expected to converse with these high-ranking girls. Arisa wonders if they are still in Japan. Eri speculates that they might be in Hokkaido. Karin counters that if that were true, their phones should still work, concluding that this must be an uninhabited island. Mana suggests they might be in the eastern region, but Karin disagrees, pointing out that they would still have signals if that were the case. Mana bumps into Hokage and warns him not to stop suddenly. He hushes her. They peer through the bushes and notice a tiger occupying the cave. They question why such an animal is present, pointing out that it should not exist in Japan. Hokage explains that this is not Japan. Even on an uninhabited island, they should detect some form of signal. He adds that he noticed traces of wild boars and chipmunks. Mana inquires what that implies, and Karin elaborates on Blakiston's line. Hokage concludes that the ecosystem here is unnatural. Mana presses further about their location. Hokage admits it sounds absurd, but suggests they may no longer be on Earth and have arrived in another world. The girls are speechless, and Mana snaps at him, questioning his sanity. The tiger senses movement, forcing them to silence her. Hokage explains the strangest part is how they arrived. They were resting during lunch break before suddenly appearing here. Mana still finds the idea unrealistic. Hokage clarifies it's only a theory and lacks evidence, then advises leaving the area, guiding them toward the river. Arisa marvels at his preparedness, but hesitates to drink, teasing that it would count as an indirect kiss despite them not dating. Hokage assures her the bottle is unused. She drinks and urges Mana to do the same. Arisa grows anxious, wondering if they will ever return home. Hokage points out that if this is another world, returning will be difficult, though it may still be Earth. Karen asks if there's a way to confirm their location. Hokage admits he doesn't know, adding that if they escape the island, they might find a settlement. Mana eagerly urges them to hurry, but Hokage confesses he doesn't know which direction leads out. Her spirit falters, but he reassures them they're not out of options. Without signal, they can climb a tree and use phone cameras to scout the area. Arisa complains she can't climb, joking that she isn't a monkey. Hokage calmly says he can. She stares in disbelief. He explains his phone is outdated and lacks high-quality imaging, so he needs the highest vantage point. Karen offers her selfie stick, and Hokage swiftly climbs the tree, leaving the girls astonished. As he takes photos, he notices their expressions lighten, realizing their morale has improved. Mana suddenly spots something, and a monkey snatches the phone from Hokage. Everyone freezes. The monkey leaps toward Mana, who boasts that she can befriend animals. Hokage questions her safety. Arisa panics, insisting they must rescue her. Noticing the monkey behind him, Mana screams in frustration, but then reassures everyone that the monkey was merely playing. Hokage turns to Karen to confirm the images. She states that there are no visible settlements, but the attempt was not pointless. Hokage managed to spot the sea. The group clusters around him, and Arisa suddenly jumps, pointing out what appears to be an island in the photo. After adjusting the image, the shape becomes clear. Hokage realizes it truly is an island, and is surprised that Arisa noticed it first. Mana excitedly asks if this is good news. Hokage confirms it is. If the island is abandoned, there is still a chance people live nearby, provided this is not another world. Their chances of rescue increase, and their spirits rise. They use the phone's built-in compass to determine the sea's direction. Arisa uses the knife to carve landmarks along the way. Mana questions whether marking the path is necessary when they have a compass. Hokage points out that it will be useful once the phone battery dies. Mana cannot believe he failed to bring an analog compass. Hokage admits he forgot, and they laugh at him. While traveling, Eri approaches Hokage and gently inquires about his thoughts. He confesses that he wants to reclaim the cave. She questions whether he can defeat the tiger. Hokage admits he lacks combat skills and never intended to fight such a creature. Eri presses him on his plan. He explains that they must scare the tiger away and make it fear them, or they will eventually be killed. She asks what they should do. Hokage admits he is still thinking and is unsure whether his idea will succeed. Eri praises him and urges him to inform her once he forms a plan. They finally reach the sea, and the girls burst with excitement, while Hokage feels relieved. He reasons that where there is shellfish, there must be seaweed, and fishing is also possible. He reminds them that the sun is setting, and they need to head back. They question where they are going. Hokage reveals they are returning to the cave, and declares that they are going to confront the tiger. The girls freeze in shock. Mana is confused by Hokage's plan to confront the tiger, and asks whether they will be involved. He explains that they cannot drive it off alone and must work together. She feels uneasy, knowing they are ordinary people. Hokage continues, "Brute strength is the fastest solution, and if they appear dangerous, the tiger will hesitate to attack. But this opponent is stronger, and if it sees them as weak prey, it will strike. That's why they will use a different method." He urges them to keep moving and promises to explain as they walk. The monkey returns, and Mana calls it Rita. Hokage is surprised she already gave it a name. She speaks to the monkey, explaining the situation, and Hokage is stunned to realize she understands its responses, an unusually rare ability. Eri jokes that Mana is a monkey boss, and Arisa suggests she means a queen instead. Mana stares at them, confused. Hokage instructs them to move slowly and quietly. The tiger is sleeping, giving them an advantage, and he signals them to follow the plan. Mana hesitates, questioning if it's truly safe, and Arisa warns that failure means death. Hokage counters that if they do not repel it, they will die anyway, urging them to steel themselves. The girls gather courage and suppress their fear. They finally approach the tiger, which wakes and glares at them. Hokage warns them not to falter, or it will pounce. The tiger roars. Hokage ignites his flares, and all of them scream in unison. He orders them to raise their voices higher. The tiger eventually backs away and runs. The girls cannot believe it worked. They have secured the cave. Crowding around Hokage, stunned and excited, he tells them it was only possible because they worked together. Mana worries the tiger might return. Hokage agrees, but explains they have instilled fear in its instincts. If raw strength fails, surprise tactics like loud noise and fire combined with stealth will work. He is confident the tiger will stay away for a while. He announces that he will inspect the cave. Arisa growls impatiently, and Eri comments that she sounds like an animal. Arisa snaps back that she's hungry. Mana admits she is too. Hokage returns a moment later, confirming the cave is safe. Arisa insists they should fish. Hokage agrees that food is necessary, but notes fishing takes too long, suggesting mushrooms instead. He explains they can roast them, which is better than nothing. Arisa reluctantly agrees. Karen asks whether the mushrooms might be poisonous. Hokage assures her he knows which are safe. Karen suggests collecting twigs for a bonfire, and Hokage agrees, instructing her to do so, and assigning someone to accompany him for sufficient portions. Eri volunteers, and Hokage thanks her. Karen mentions keeping an eye out for mushrooms, but Hokage warns them not to touch anything dangerous. He spots a mushroom, carefully picks it, and confirms it is edible. Eri asks if they will find more, and he assures her they will. As they continue, Hokage realizes he is alone with Eri. She asks why they are collecting twigs instead of using textbooks, and mentions she has a lighter. Hokage explains they need to conserve resources if they are here long-term. After gathering enough twigs, Hokage notes the flare is still burning, making the return easy. Eri slips, and he reaches to steady her, both stumbling slightly. Panicked, he checks if she is hurt. She reassures him she's fine. They laugh awkwardly at the stumble and decide to rest for a moment. Eri teases him for being jumpy, and Hokage blushes, looking away. Afterward, Eri finishes collecting mushrooms and urges them to head back before dark. Hokage jokes, and she snaps that she only acts, and it was her first time doing something like this, insisting it was special. He thanks her. Eri blushes and insists she is not immoral. She declares that whatever happened must remain a secret. Hokage agrees. Eri urges him to protect them from now on, and he promises he will, even at the cost of his life. Finally, they spot the cave. Hokage notices more people have gathered. Arisa notices first and welcomes him back. The bully from earlier confirms they led the way, explaining that the light and smoke made them think rescuers had arrived. He mocks Hokage for carrying flares in his bag, but adds he doesn't mind teaming up with him. The bully tells Hokage he prefers having more people around, adding that it would be miserable if Hokage ended up alone. Mana feels relieved that more classmates have arrived, and Arisa relaxes slightly. Hokage agrees that having more people is beneficial, but insists on hearing their plan before deciding whether teaming up is the best option. Byakuya looks confused, but his brother Reito signals him to wait and apologizes for provoking him earlier. He urges Hokage to listen while the sun is still up. Our ninja recognizes the Sumeragi brothers immediately. They rank at the top academically and athletically, and their family company is one of Japan's leading firms. Reito explains that their base is on a hill and that building a large fire there could signal for help. Hokage questions whether a rescue helicopter would actually come. Reito says his phone has an anti-kidnapping system that can transmit a distress alert, and he is confident his family is already searching for them. Hokage is impressed, but realizes that if his earlier deduction is correct, and this is not Earth, their chances of rescue drop drastically. Reito calls over a pale, exhausted boy, Tanaka, from the otaku circle. Byakuya scolds him for dropping his bag again. Reito remarks coldly that Tanaka will not last long and must follow them if he wants to survive. Hokage refuses to join their group. The brothers freeze, and Reito questions his seriousness. Hokage confirms it. Reito shrugs, saying Hokage can do as he wishes. Byakuya urges Mana to go with them, but she refuses, insisting it would feel wrong to leave Hokage alone after everything they endured. The other girls also refuse. Reito questions their sanity. Mana replies that if they stay with Hokage, he will not leave them behind. Hokage smirks and promises he never will. Mana challenges Reito, asking what he would have done if Hokage had been alone, adding that it would be disgraceful for the heir of the Sumeragi group to pressure them. Reito scoffs, implying they are acting as Hokage's insurance, and says they can come to his base if they change their minds. Byakuya questions leaving the girls with Hokage. Reito responds that Hokage has not forced anyone. The girls are choosing him for now. He laughs cruelly and urges them to hurry, prioritizing his own objectives. Karen mutters that they are disgusting. Eri teases Hokage lightly, while Arisa mentions handling a dangerous customer at her part-time job. Eri reminds everyone they collected plenty of mushrooms. Arisa jokes that talking about mushrooms feels suggestive and pretends she will chew them aggressively out of spite. Mana snaps at her. She then tells Hokage they chose him instead of Rado and warns him not to make them regret it. Hokage reassures her and suggests grilling the mushrooms. They eat, and Hokage adds seasoning, instantly improving the flavor. Karen realizes he used curry powder, and Hokage claims it's crucial for survival. Mana admits it tastes better, but still feels plain. He reveals the ultimate seasoning, salt, which they can obtain in unlimited supply from the sea. Mana is stunned, and Eri explains that boiling seawater will yield more. Arisa calls Mana an idiot. Hokage pulls out several books, and the girls ask what he is doing. He explains they will make pillows because sleeping on the ground is uncomfortable. Karen asks if they can make proper bedding. Hokage replies they can create simple mushiro by spreading leaves. He urges them to sleep and conserve energy, but the girls stare at him. Hokage notices and asks what's wrong. Mana explains they need to clean themselves. Hokage reminds them not to discard anything, since cloth pieces are valuable for survival. Arisa accuses him of being a pervert, but he clarifies he is thinking practically, not shamelessly. Exhaustion finally catches up, and Hokage falls asleep. It has been a brutal day, but they survive. When the sun rises, he notices Arisa sleeping extremely close to him. He panics, worried someone might misunderstand if she wakes. He tries to shift away carefully, but Arisa clings to him in her sleep. She shifts again, trapping him awkwardly. Finally waking, she screams and accuses him of doing something suspicious. Hokage hurriedly clarifies that she rolled while asleep. The girls piece together what happened, and Arisa apologizes. Mana teases him, wondering if he secretly thought he gained something from the situation. Hokage becomes flustered, but watching the girls chat, he realizes that if things continue like this, survival might become strangely manageable. Mana asks what they will be doing today. Hokage replies that they will be collecting rocks. Eri remarks that there are plenty lying around. Mana questions why he needs them, and he says it's a surprise, leaving them visibly intrigued. Karen catches on and wonders if he will need wood as well. He confirms this, and she admits she has a rough idea of what he is trying to make. With a quiet chuckle, he instructs Eri to gather wood and has Mana search for supplies. Before he can assign Arisa a task, she declares that she will catch fish. He accepts her decision, then urges Mana to gather as many provisions as possible. Mana says she will ask Rita to help as well. Hokage teases that Arisa will look like a buzu, and she snaps back in annoyance. Eri asks what he will be doing, and Hokage replies that he has plenty to handle. He announces that they will start by making earthenware, which leaves the girls staring at him in disbelief. He adds that today, they will experience what it is like to live in the Paleolithic and Jomon periods. He warns them to search only near the base and instructs that if they encounter wild animals, they must run straight back to the cave. Arisa returns with clay, and Hokage asks if she is fine with dirtying her bag. She replies that it's fine and she can wash it later. She mentions that she wants to fish and wonders if he is making a fishing rod. He confirms that he finally finished one. He tells her to wait, but she ignores him and uses it immediately. She looks confused when nothing hooks instantly like it would in a game. Hokage explains that she needs to attach bait first. Arisa freezes when she sees the worm, admitting that she cannot do it. He challenges her, asking if she is giving up already. While he works on shaping pots, she comments that he seems to be enjoying himself. He questions whether she should focus on her own task, and she complains that nothing is biting. He suggests that a tightening line might be a sign she has caught something. Arisa finally realizes what he means, and he tells her to pull it up since there is no reel. The moment she yanks, she slips, and he catches her before she falls. She flushes, tells him not to hold her like that, and calls him a pervert. Hokage orders her to stop flailing, warning that if she falls in and catches a cold, there will be no medicine for her. Still flustered, she agrees, and grudgingly forgives him. He steadies her from behind and helps push her upright. Hokage is stunned that she is still gripping the rod. Arisa insists she wants to eat fish no matter what, and requests his help. He takes the rod and tells her to leave it to him. Following his clear instructions, they pull together, and Hokage smiles when his shabby rod actually brings up a fish. Arisa stares at it, wondering if it is a new species. He informs her that it is a normal iguana. Arisa says she cannot wait to eat it. Hokage tells her not to rush, explaining that once he puts charcoal in the pot and finishes baking it, they can bring everything back to share the meal. She thanks him, and he thanks her as well, saying that because of her, they will have fish to eat. Arisa says she does not know when, but she believes a day might come when they return to reality. She adds that when it happens, they should go on a date. Hokage calls her a normie, and she argues that they should have a proper Ryaju date together. He agrees, and the two of them continue laughing as if the world is not falling apart. When they regroup, the others cannot believe Arisa actually caught a fish. She replies that Hokage helped her. Karin asks where the pot is, and Hokage replies that it is still baking. Mana reports that they finished their work as well. Eri asks if what they gathered is enough, and Hokage says it is, but points out that poisonous mushrooms are mixed in. Eri asks if they should throw them away. Hokage replies that he will use them as a talisman instead, demonstrating that hanging them like this can ward off animals, since animals are far more sensitive to smell. The girls stare in amazement. Karin asks if he wants to see how she sorted the rocks. She shows him that she split them by shape and size. He thanks her and asks if she is knowledgeable about rocks. She replies that she simply did what she thought he would need. Hokage praises her, and a small smile appears on her face. He realizes he miscalculated. He never expected the girls to work this hard, nor did he expect them to be this capable. A rustle stirs in the bushes, and the girls call for him to come eat. He ignores the sound, assuming it was just his imagination. They inquire what they will do in the afternoon. Hokage remarks that since they are making solid progress, he wants to speed things up by swapping roles. Arisa immediately insists that she wants to do more fishing, so he keeps the roles the same for Mana and Arisa. He assigns Eri to collect mud and informs Karin that he wants to begin manufacturing stone tools. Karin instantly understands what he is aiming for and takes charge of the earthenware work. She mentions that she is fairly familiar with the Jomon period, so she can guide him while also taking pointers. Her historical knowledge, combined with how quickly she adapts, makes her especially reliable. She then informs Arisa that she will accompany her to the river and asks whether she wants to catch fish as well. Hokage notes that Karin comes off a little cold, but her results speak for themselves. The rocks she gathered are sorted efficiently by type and size. Even though her expression barely changes, her actions show that she trusts him. With this, he can finally start making stone tools. He decides to create something sharp first, like a knife. He gets to work and eventually crafts an axe. Eri stares at it in shock and asks if it is really an axe. Hokage confirms that it is, adding that he is making stone tools, then pauses when he notices a familiar bag. He asks if it is Arisa's bag. Eri replies that Karin borrowed it since it was already dirty and that she will need to wash it before returning it. She calls Hokage amazing, but he lets out a small chuckle and denies it. He points out that Eri gathered the wood and Karin handled the rocks. He adds that he owes Karin thanks as well, since collecting the rocks is the hardest part. Eri catches him staring, and his face reddens instantly. She stays quiet for a moment, then chuckles. After some time, he finally finishes the weapons. The others return as well, and their eyes widen in amazement. Eri remarks that he managed to make quite a few. Mana comments that this deserves a reward, and both Eri and Hokage blush at the thought. Arisa then shows him a pot full of fish, and Hokage looks genuinely impressed. She reveals that Karin is scared of earthworms. Hokage asks whether Arisa was not scared at first as well. Still, he is relieved that they secure a proper meal. He shows them the salt. He explains that while working on the tools, he boils seawater, but he can only produce this much. Mana asks if the container is a bento box. Hokage explains that it is a camping cooker and that it can double as a box. Once the food is cooked, the meal tastes surprisingly delicious. Eri remarks that the salt is slightly bitter. Hokage claims that it is due to minerals and that if they can purify it, they can make proper table salt. Karin comments that this is still an ideal environment. Mana asks what she means, and Karin explains that the sea and river are close and that they have a cave to protect them from rain. Eri remarks that she sounds just like Hokage. Karin replies that her intellect is based on history, so she is useless in real survival. Hokage counters that temperature-wise they are fine, but that she is missing something important. He points out that there are no mosquitoes. Mana agrees that it is true, but questions whether that even matters, since they could just slap them dead. Hokage explains that mosquitoes are one of the main causes of death throughout human history. He adds that he also cannot find any signs of snakes or scorpions, which makes survival far easier. Karin agrees that it is a crucial detail. Arisa asks what they will do tomorrow. Eri announces that she wants to take a bath, and Karin joins in. Mana asks if he can make a bathtub. Hokage replies that if it is something simple, he can build one in a week. However, he wants to focus on more urgent aspects of survival first. The girls look confused, so he clarifies that he wants to prepare for bad weather, food supplies, and hygiene, such as making soap. They brighten instantly when they hear that he can make soap. Hokage shares that they already have the ingredients and that he simply needs to produce them at the same time. With that, they abandon the bathtub idea. Hokage states that tomorrow they will begin working on preserved food and soap, and that he will be relying on Arisa's fishing. Arisa smirks and tells him to leave it to her. At that moment, someone else arrives. Arisa panics and swings first, and Hokage falls. It turns out the newcomer is another girl. She asks whether Hokage won't let her join his team, claiming it would be far more fun that way. She inquires whether he will let them in as well. Mana recognizes her as Asakura Meiko, though she is not from their class. Hokage reasons that the Sumeragi brothers were transported here because they were in the same class. He questions whether she said us. She confirms it, then calls for the other person to come out. Another girl steps forward and introduces herself as Hinako. Meiko explains that Hinako is her younger sister. The girls warm up to them quickly, and Hokage wonders how many others were dragged into this place. Meiko asks again whether they will accept them. Hokage admits they are short on helping hands, then asks whether they are willing to contribute. Meiko assures him they will be useful. She reveals that they are part of the handicraft club and brought their tools with them. Karen asks if they are weaving tools, and Meiko confirms it, explaining that they were researching them in the club room. They are only halfway through, but they have already mastered the basics. Hokage asks whether they can make simple clothes. The sisters look confused for a moment, then Meiko replies that it is child's play. Hokage remarks that such garments are common during the Yayoi period. Arisa tells them to make futons, and Meiko agrees, though she warns that it will take time. Eri feels relieved that they finally get to talk to them. Meiko admits that she is naturally shy, yet she cannot stay timid in a situation like this. She adds that her sister is even more withdrawn, which is why she has to do her best. Karen interrupts and asks why they have not met anyone in the past day and a half. She points out that the Sumeragi group has been running a signal fire since yesterday, and normally people would have headed there first. Meiko explains that they have been watching them since morning. Hokage asks about yesterday. Meiko reveals that they woke up inside a cave and stayed there for a while. Later, they noticed smoke and began moving toward it. Along the way, they ran into others heading in the same direction, so they spent the night there. Hinako trembles, and Eri asks what happened next, wondering if they had to flee. Meiko nods and agrees to explain everything. The scene shifts to earlier. Reito orders his members to make sure the fire does not die out. Byakuya offers Meiko food, and she thanks him. He assures her that everything will work out and claims that a rescue team will arrive soon. Meiko agrees, though her unease does not fade. Byakuya tells her they should get to know each other better, then steps closer. She notices several people behind the bushes engaging in immoral behavior, and her stomach turns. Byakuya calmly implies that this is simply how things work now. He suggests that they are guaranteeing her survival, so she should give something in return. He adds that this is no longer the world they used to live in, then coldly mentions that he is not interested in her sister. Meiko snaps and shoves him back, warning him not to touch her. She refuses to let him lay a hand on Hinako. Byakuya scoffs and questions why she is making him the villain when they saved her. Meiko declares that she is leaving the group. Byakuya grabs her wrist and accuses her of being selfish. Reito steps in and orders them to stop, warning them not to break the rules. He claims that they have secured water and food and insists that they will be rescued soon, so there is nothing to complain about. Meiko silently questions whether everyone there is truly following them by choice. Reito replies that he planned to ignore it, but since she does not want to stay, she is free to leave. Meiko turns and walks away. Byakuya argues that Reito is being too lenient. Reito reminds him that rules exist for a reason and that there is no need to waste effort on those who refuse to obey them. Byakuya understands and smirks. At present, Meiko admits that she is relieved they left as quickly as they could. Karen apologizes for doubting her, and Meiko replies that it is fine since she doubted them as well. She admits that everyone in Hokage's group looks happy together, and she is grateful that he accepted them. She thanks him again. He replies that she is the one who saved herself. Eri asks whether he is thinking about something. Hokage reveals that it is time to pull the fangs from Byakuya. Meiko warns that Byakuya listens to his older brother and is very strong. Hokage replies that there is a chance their group could fracture from the inside. In terms of brute strength, Byakuya leads, and if Reito loses authority, Byakuya could take over completely. Mana cuts him off and tells him to stop talking about it. She insists that they need to start a welcome party instead. They give the sisters mushrooms to eat. Hokage thinks that since Byakuya came here and saw the girls, he must already be eyeing them. If he discovers that Hinako and Meiko are here too, Hokage knows he will need to prepare. On the third day, Mana finds him and explains that she woke up early. She saw him leaving and decided to follow. Hokage replies that he wanted to finish things before the others woke up. Mana asks whether he is doing all this for them. Hokage replies that he is doing it because he genuinely enjoys it. Mana remarks that it is the first time they are alone together and says that he should feel lucky to be with a beauty like her. Hokage admits that she truly is beautiful, and she blushes. Mana asks whether he has something to do and offers to help. Hokage starts removing clothing, and Mana freezes in horror. He clarifies that if he does not take his clothes off, he cannot do what he needs to do. Mana's face turns crimson. Hokage reveals that he is diving into the ocean to collect seaweed, and he instructs her to call the monkey to gather seashells. It finally makes sense to her. Hokage asks why her face is so red. Mana snaps back that it is not, then smacks him. She loses her footing, slips, and falls. He demands that she move because he cannot breathe, and she is heavier than she looks. She calls him rude. He questions why she is getting angry when he is only stating the obvious. Irritated, she challenges him by asking why he is acting fine, and he responds that he is not fine at all, which is exactly why he wants her to get off. She scoffs and assumes he must be a newbie, which is why he is flustered. As their awkward interaction winds down, he takes a moment to catch his breath and notices how much time has passed. He realizes he planned to return before everyone woke up, but now it will probably be noon by the time they finish their work. She notices his underwater goggles and questions why he has them. He explains he forgot them in his bag after swimming class. She laughs and admits the same thing has happened to her before. Before he dives, she warns him to keep everything that happened between them a secret. He nods and thanks her quietly. When they return, everyone is amazed by the seaweed and the seashells they gathered. Eri remarks that she thought he disappeared, but he clarifies they were collecting materials for soap. Kyrene adds that she panicked when she woke up and did not see them anywhere. Both of them blush and quickly make excuses. Mako then asks if she can have a minute, and she reveals the futons she made. She says she patched the sheets they managed to find, so it is not a proper futon, but it will still help. He acknowledges that it is a huge improvement over sleeping on bare ground. She adds that they will have enough for everyone by night. Arisa announces she caught a lot of fish as well, and Eri reports she gathered many edible materials. He comments that if they keep moving like this, they will be able to stock supplies properly. Eri mentions she harvested everything the way he taught her. He checks the bundle and notices saffron mixed with alpine leeks, which is poisonous. Eri apologizes and admits she thought it might still be useful. He reassures her she did more than enough, then shows her a cherimoya, explaining it is a fruit sometimes called the ice cream of the forest. Everyone lights up with excitement, and he informs them it is ripe, so they can eat it immediately. It does not taste like real ice cream, but they are still happy to finally eat something sweet. He remarks that it is all thanks to Eri, and she replies she needs to remember where she found it. He warns them not to eat the seeds or the outer shell. With enough food secured, soap ingredients gathered, stone tools prepared, and futons finally made, he feels their survival has entered a stable phase. In his mind, he starts thinking about building a house soon. They overhear him and immediately bombard him with questions about whether he can really build one. Karen wonders if he means a dugout, while Arisa insists she wants a proper house. He claims their items are increasing, more people will likely join them, and even the people of the Jomon period built homes with less than this. Arisa declares it was the right decision to side with him instead of Rado. He reminds her that building a house will take time, and he needs to prioritize a bathtub first. He urges them to keep doing their best with their midday assignments as well. That night, everyone relaxes because they can finally sleep properly. Eri remarks that it is all thanks to Mako and Hinako. He lies down and realizes the futon is far more comfortable than he expected. He decides that tomorrow he must focus on preserving food. He also considers that if this world has 4 seasons, they will need to prepare for winter, which will arrive in a few months. Rain suddenly begins to pour, and he jolts awake and rushes out of the cave. They fish along the river, and Mana grows increasingly irritated when yet another fish slips away. Arisa laughs at her, genuinely amused, because Mana truly believed she could do it if Arisa could catch them so easily. Eri remarks that Hokage can catch fish as well, and he explains it is only because of experience. Eri inquires whether there are any tricks to it, but Arisa claims the first step is to become one with nature. None of them understand what she means, and Arisa stares at them like they are hopeless. Mana asks about Karen, and Arisa replies that Karen cannot handle earthworms, while Eri mutters that she will just do it her own way. Karen picks up a rock and declares that history is the crystallization of humanity's sin. She then announces she is using a forbidden technique and hurls the rock into the river. Hokage explains that it is a method where colliding stones creates a shock that can force fish outward. Karen manages to catch a tiny fish, and they all laugh at her. Hokage remarks that she lacks strength, and Karen coldly responds that she will use dynamite next time. Mana turns to Eri and presses her for ideas, because at this rate, they will not have dinner tonight. Eri hesitates, thinking hard, until a sudden idea sparks in her mind. She walks up to Hokage and quietly suggests that if they cannot secure dinner, he would not mind sharing his portion with her. He agrees far too enthusiastically, and the others immediately protest that it is unfair. They swarm him in outrage, and after being thoroughly bullied, he finally relents and agrees to split it between all three of them. In the end, he is left with only a small portion. While the girls happily thank him, Hokage can only respond with an awkward laugh. Hokage wakes them and warns about the storm. They jolt upright in confusion, but panic spreads quickly through the group. He explains that the rain is getting heavier and the cave is starting to flood. Mana and Arisa immediately lose composure, and he reminds them that going outside at night is too dangerous. He points out higher ground deeper inside the cave and instructs them to retreat there until morning. Karen insists they need to move their supplies, and tension spikes again. Arisa frets about her cosmetics, and Mana panics along with her. The rising water snuffs out the fire, and their screams echo through the cave. Hokage switches on his flashlight and urges them to stay calm, assuring them that panicking will only make things worse. The flood is not surging as fast as it feels, and there is still time to move safely. He instructs them to prioritize items that will be ruined by water, while anything that can be remade or dried can wait. Mako points out that the futons can be dried and restuffed, but it will take time, so food should come first. Mana declares she will secure her belongings, and Arisa agrees to carry their bags. Hokage watches the group settle down and realizes they can survive anything as long as they work together. By the time the cave is partially flooded, most of the supplies are safe. He thanks them sincerely, noting how well they performed even under pressure. Mako expresses relief that he noticed the danger so quickly, and Eri praises him for being reliable. Hokage replies that once dawn arrives, they can search for a safer shelter outside. The space is cramped, but he encourages them to rest. As the others drift off, he notices they have fallen asleep without lingering fear and feels grateful. Guilt hits him, however, because he realizes he should have dug a canal earlier to prepare for flooding. The timing is unfortunate since they are still building their supplies, but he admits they were fortunate overall. He vows not to repeat the mistake, reminding himself that as their leader, their lives depend on his judgment. He mutters that he should sleep as well. A moment later, someone shifts closer and he assumes it is Arisa, until he remembers she is sleeping on the other side. He dismisses the thought, but the warmth eases the pressure in his chest. Then the person kisses him, and he freezes in shock. Confused, he wonders what she is thinking and whether she is trying to comfort him or acting out of worry. He feels he cannot bring himself to reject it and accepts it, even while worrying about being noticed. He convinces himself no one will hear because the pounding rain swallows every sound. His thoughts blur, tension dissolves, and eventually lightning strikes, revealing that the person beside him is none other than Karen. He sees her face and cannot believe it. Before he can react, she slips away, leaving him in darkness until morning. When they step outside, everyone is cheerful, but Karen quietly worries the rain might start again. Hokage notices her calm demeanor and convinces himself that last night was nothing more than a dream. Mako asks what they should do about the cave. He suggests draining it, and Arisa questions how that will work. He explains they can use dry soil to absorb the water, then scoop it back out. Mako asks where they will find dry soil, and he replies that they can dry some using sunlight and a bonfire. He assigns tasks to everyone, and they get to work immediately. Eri remarks it is brutal labor, while Mana is just happy they will be able to sleep on futons again. Hokage reminds them that once the cleanup is done, they will return to their original duties. He places Mana and Arisa on food duty, instructs Eri to attempt making soap, and assigns Mako and Hinako to repair the futons. Then he takes Karen with him to hunt. Arisa tries to join, but he refuses with a small excuse, and she quickly changes her mind. As they walk, they notice animal tracks along the path. Karen asks about the traps he plans to set. He introduces the falling rock trap and demonstrates it, explaining why it is placed along the trail. Walking the same route back will feel safer if it is protected. He instructs her to watch closely, since he intends to add a few tricks. Next, he decides to create a pitfall for a boar. They work in silence for a while, until Karen finally speaks, asking if he will mention last night. He admits it really was her, not a dream. She apologizes, saying it must have shocked him. He tries to respond, but she cuts him off. He wonders if this is where things become awkward. Karen explains that she was terrified they might die in the cave. Everyone else stayed positive, so she forced herself to hide her fear. Hokage's steady leadership had calmed the group, but Karen realized just how close they had come to danger. She remains composed and rarely shows emotion, but she is still a girl. Hokage apologizes, and she says it is fine, insisting he has already done enough. She adds that she is glad he is there with her. He blushes faintly, realizing she trusts him enough to give him these moments. Karen confesses that in the darkness, she thought about how all she had ever done was study and whether she would ever truly experience life. She thought it impossible in the cave, but the darkness made her feel free to try things she normally wouldn't. Hokage is confused, but she continues. He blushes hard, and she hides her own expression. Once the trap is finished and Karen completes her part, he suggests they head back. She asks if they should check the cave Mako mentioned, located between their base and the other groups. Hokage admits it might be useful, but Karen suddenly grabs him from behind and clarifies she did not mean it that way. She wants to continue from where they left off, urging him to teach her. Karen laughs, realizing he is genuinely worried, and admits she is glad he is by her side. She kisses him, and he suddenly shoves her down. Karen questions what he is doing, and he signals for her to stay quiet. He tells her to head back, explaining he heard a tiger and will check it out. She tells him to be careful and leaves. Hokage finds the tiger, which looks agitated. At that moment, Byakuya appears with his team.
Here I am.